When I was growing up as a young child, I shared a room with my little brother. And my little brother could not go to sleep at night unless the closet door was left open and a light was on in the closet because he was convinced that a monster lived in the closet. Now, as an adult, we think of that as somewhat ridiculous. We know that an imaginary monster can't hurt us. But to a child, he could be very real. Some people today believe that the devil is just like that figment of a child's imagination, an imaginary monster, that he's not real and that he can't harm us in any way. Still, other people believe that the devil, well, he's really just the evil, that quality that exists in humans, that he's not a real person. What does the Bible really teach about the devil? Well, simply put, the Bible teaches that the devil is not just the symbol of evil and not an imaginary monster, but that he is a real and truly evil person. And we would expect the Bible to contain information about the devil, because if he is real and he's the enemy of God, then we would expect that Jehovah God, through the pages of the Bible, would tell us who the devil was. And the Bible does explain simply and clearly that the devil is the spirit creature who is the chief, foremost enemy of Jehovah God, and really of any who worship him. So what does the Bible teach about the devil? What kind of a picture does it paint for us? Well, let's look at a few accounts in the Bible that give us a picture of who the devil is. And we can begin to see that not only is he real, but that he doesn't have good motives when it comes to those who worship Jehovah. I invite you to take your Bible to Job chapter 1, and let's read together verses 6 and 7, and look in on an event that took place in heaven that involves the devil. Job chapter 1, and let's read verses 6 and 7. Now the day came when the sons of the true God entered to take their station before Jehovah, and Satan also entered among them. Then Jehovah said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered Jehovah, "From roving about on the earth and from walking about in it." And then with those verses in mind, let's turn over to chapter 2 and read in verse 7 what happens at the end of this meeting in heaven. Chapter 2, verse 7 says, "So Satan went out from the presence of Jehovah and struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head." So we can see from the picture on the screen that the devil, he's able to speak. He spoke with Jehovah. He stood before him. He came in. He entered into Jehovah's very presence. He showed by the conversation that he had his own thoughts and his own ideas, that he was capable of taking his own actions, that he moves about. And by the action he took against Job at the end of this conversation, he shows that his motive was bad. He went and he did evil to the man Job. This account helps us to see that the devil is a real person. All the other characters in this account, Jehovah, the angels, they're all real. And Satan was right there among them. We might ask the question, did Jesus believe that Satan the devil existed and that he was real? To answer that question, let's consider an event in Jesus' earthly life. Turn to Matthew, the 4th chapter. And let's note what happened here in Jesus' earthly life. Matthew chapter 4, and we might say as we begin reading this that Jesus had lived in heaven before he came to earth. He was perfect. You couldn't fool Jesus. He was able to read hearts. So what was Jesus' reaction to this instance here? Matthew chapter 4, let's read verse 1. It says, "Then Jesus was led by the Spirit up into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil." So here, the devil saw an opportunity to tempt Jesus, and that's what he does. He tempts him with 3 different temptations, and Jesus responds with scriptures each time. Now, was Jesus talking to himself? No. Was he imagining that he was being tempted? No. And how do we know? We know because of the final response that Jesus gave the devil. Look at verses 10 and 11 of Matthew chapter 4. Then Jesus said to him, "Go away, Satan, for it is written, 'It is Jehovah your God you must worship, and it is to him alone you must render sacred service.' Then the devil left him, and look, angels came and began to minister to him." So what is Jesus' final response to this temptation of the devil? He simply and directly says, "Go away, get away from me." And the devil does in fact leave Jesus. You see, Jesus recognized that the devil was real and he had a malicious intent, that he was there to do harm to Jesus. And so very forcefully, he told him to go away. It shows that Jesus believed that the devil was real and that he was a threat to him. What about the early Christians? What does the Bible tell us about what they believed about the devil? Did they view him the same as Jesus? Let's answer that question by reading what Paul wrote in Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 11. Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 11 says this: "Put on the complete suit of armor from God, so that you may be able to stand firm against the crafty acts of the devil." So what is this verse advising the Christians in Ephesus to do? Well, it's telling them, put on a suit of armor. Put on something to defend yourself against what? The acts of the devil. So what was Paul saying in this verse? Isn't this verse really a warning to the Christians? Yeah, it is. Put on a suit of armor. Defend yourself. Protect yourself. Now, what would have been the purpose of this warning if the devil wasn't real? Well, this warning would have had no purpose. No, but Jehovah inspired Paul to put this warning in the Bible because the devil is real. And the Christians in the first century recognized that the devil was a threat and they needed to do something to protect themselves. Now, this leads us to a question we might ask then. Well, if the Bible paints a picture of the devil being real and of being a threat to Christians, then we might ask the question, well, where did he come from? Do you mean that Jehovah God, this loving God, created this evil person just to tempt humans? Well, no, he didn't. What Jehovah created was a perfect angel in heaven. He did not create him as an evil person, but as a perfect spirit creature. At some point, though, this spirit creature chose to rebel against Jehovah God. He wanted power and worship for himself, and so he turned against Jehovah, and he made himself the evil being that we today refer to as Satan, the devil. So the Bible paints a picture that helps us to see that Satan is not an imaginary monster. He's not just the evil within humans, but he is a very real and powerful spirit creature. But more than that, he is an evil, vicious, wicked, and destructive person. Now, if Jehovah saw fit to tell us about the devil's existence in the Bible and that he is evil, wouldn't it make sense that he would also teach us how the devil operates so that we would know how to protect ourselves? We would know what to look for. Well, he does do exactly that through the pages of the Bible. What does the Bible teach us about the way the devil operates? Well, let's look at a few examples. Turn your Bibles to 1 John chapter 2 and verse 16. And as we read this verse, notice several methods of operation that the devil can use to tempt humans. 1 John chapter 2 and verse 16. It says, "Because everything in the world, the desire of the flesh and the desire of the eyes and the showy display of one's means of life does not originate with the Father, but originates with the world." So did you notice several ways that the devil operates in this verse? Well, first, he can appeal to our fleshly desires, the desire of the flesh, immorality. And isn't it true that the world all around us, no matter where we live, considers this kind of behavior as normal? Yet the Bible warns us not to practice sexual immorality. This is a method, however, that Satan the devil has used often over hundreds or even thousands of years of human existence to get people to turn away from serving God. This verse also mentions the desire of the eyes, materialism. The desire of the eyes is not a new method of the devil. It's something that he has used for a long time. Think about what Satan said to Eve in the Garden of Eden. See the fruit. Or to Jesus in one of those temptations in Matthew chapter 4. See the kingdoms. See, the devil is an expert at appealing to the desire of the eyes. His entire world is geared toward the desire of the eyes. Advertising conditions us to want the latest and the greatest of anything and everything. And his world is not just selling things, but entire lifestyles. We have to have a certain job, take a certain vacation, have just the right home and just the right street and just the right neighborhood. And the people who have all of these things are pictured as influential, happy, beautiful people. You see, it takes Satan very little effort to appeal to our eyes and persuade us to do something other than serve God. This verse also mentions another method, or we could say methods of the devil. It talks about everything in the world. Now, that's an all-encompassing statement, isn't it? Everything in the world can include all of the vices that the world offers, things like gambling, the abuse of alcohol, or drugs. These things are really practices that Jehovah God hates because they reflect the attitude of Satan himself. They reflect an attitude of selfishness and a lack of love or concern for others. And when we think about it, these things can make it easier for Satan to control us. When we think about a person who is drunk with alcohol or on drugs, isn't it true that they will do things that they would not otherwise do? Wouldn't Satan love to get us in a position where he could control our actions? Everything in the world also includes the entertainment that this world offers. Television, movies, videos, music, what we find on the internet. Really, the entertainment this world offers is riddled with satanic thinking and unmentionable filth. You see, Satan's world is like a restaurant menu. We open that menu and we read, and everything sounds so good, but all of the food coming out of the kitchen is poisoned. Now, another method of operation that the devil uses is found for us in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 4. Let's read that together. 2 Corinthians 4:4 describes something that the devil does. It refers to him here as the God of this system of things. And notice what he does. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, among whom the God of this system of things has blinded the minds of the unbelievers, so that the illumination of the glorious good news about the Christ, who is the image of God, might not shine through. So another method of operation that the devil uses is to blind the minds of people to the truth about Jehovah God. He uses false religion to do that. With all the various beliefs of the thousands of religions in the world, he confuses people. You see, they don't know whether God is real or not, or whether God cares about them or not. And so he can't be real if God isn't real. He confuses the people. He blinds their minds. That is a method of operation of the devil. And yet another way that the devil operates, we read about when we read Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 11. You remember that verse described the crafty acts of the devil? So those crafty acts, well, that's another tool in his toolbox. That's another way that he operates. And he can do that by things such as the occult, perhaps actual worship of Satan himself. But more often, we see it reflected in violent acts and even in innocent children's games and entertainment. Another crafty act of the devil is independent thinking. And don't we see this all around us today? A disrespect for authority, selfish attitudes, a loss of love and concern for one another. Indeed, the Bible teaches us exactly how the devil operates. But now, wouldn't we expect Jehovah to go even farther than that and to tell us how we protect ourselves against these tactics of the devil? Absolutely. And that's exactly what Jehovah does. Let's go to James chapter 4 together. And we're going to read 2 verses there, verses 7 and 8. And notice as we read these verses, the twofold key to resisting the devil. James chapter 4, let's read verses 7 and 8. Therefore, subject yourselves to God, but oppose the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw close to God, and he will draw close to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you indecisive ones. So did you notice the 2 keys to defending against the devil's attacks, to resisting him? Well, the first is pretty obvious, isn't it? It's right there in verse 7. It says, oppose the devil. Now, how do we oppose the devil? Well, we do that by hating what the devil loves. We hate what is bad. And that's what the Bible tells us to do. Hate what is bad. It doesn't say maybe we shouldn't like what is bad. No, it says hate what is bad. A total abhorrence of the things that the devil loves. It means totally avoiding these things. And in doing that, we cannot be indecisive, as it says in verse 8. Now, to be indecisive means to be two-souled or half-hearted. You see, we can't be half-hearted when it comes to the matter of hating what is bad. The picture that you see on the screen shows something that's half-hearted. 50% of our heart on one side, 50% on the other. How much does Satan need to get a majority? Just 1%. For us to start liking or loving what is bad. If we're half-hearted, if we're indecisive, then we're making it easier for Satan when he attacks us. So we cannot be indecisive when it comes to hating what is bad. We must oppose the devil. But what's the second key to resisting the devil? Well, we see that at the beginning of verse 8. Draw close to God. Now, how do we draw close to God? Well, we do that by what it says in verse 7, subjecting ourselves to God. It means obeying him, listening to him, doing what he asks us to do. And by doing that, we're going to draw close to Jehovah. And as we oppose the devil, as we push him away from us, we draw close to Jehovah. Then we are going to be able to resist the attacks of the devil. We have to put a lot of effort into doing that. Why? Why oppose the devil with all our strength? Why so strongly? Let's answer that by reading 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. Notice how this verse describes the devil. It says there, keep your senses, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking to devour someone. And as you can see from the illustrations on the screen, this verse paints the devil as a roaring lion. Now, my wife and I, on an assignment some years ago, had an opportunity to visit a park that had lions, and we heard a lion roar. And I'll tell you, it puts a chill down your spine. I was glad that I was separated from that lion by a fence. But imagine if that roaring lion was in the same room with us. How would we feel? Satan wants to make us afraid, fearful. He wants to intimidate us. The word devour in this verse literally means to drink down, as if Satan pulverized us so that he could swallow us in a single gulp. That's our adversary. That's what the devil wants to do. So we must defend ourselves very strongly against him. What must we do? Let's read the next verse, 1 Peter 5:9. But take your stand against him, firm in the faith, knowing that the same kind of sufferings are being experienced by the entire association of your brothers in the world. So what do we need to do? We must stand against him, firm in the faith. Now, to do that requires self-examination on our part. We have to look at ourselves and ask, do I have a weakness that Satan is exploiting? Is pride my motivating force? Is jealousy, envy, or anger distorting my personality? Do I resent counsel? Do I love money? Do I have a chip on my shoulder? You see, the devil can start with something very small like these things, and he can develop it until we give in to gross sin. So yes, we must oppose the devil with all our strength. But how can we do that? How can we actively resist Satan the devil? Well, consider 6 ways that we can actively resist the devil found in the Bible. 6 ways that we can fight him off and stay strong, firm in the faith. To do that, I want you to remember the word resist. Here's our first way. We read about it in Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 11 earlier in our discussion. It's the suit of armor. Wearing the suit of armor will protect us. It will help us to resist the devil, because that suit of armor is made up of qualities like faith, righteousness, peace, qualities that protect us against Satan's attacks, that give us strength to stand firm. Here's a second. Read the Bible every day. Psalm 1 and verse 2 says that for the person who loves Jehovah, it is a delight to read in the law of Jehovah day and night. So we need to make time for it. And we have to schedule that time, because if we don't, Satan will take that time away from us. Here's a third. Talk to Jehovah in regular prayer. 1 Peter chapter 3 and verse 12 assures us that Jehovah's ears are toward the supplication of the righteous one. Here's a fourth. Read the publications from the faithful slave, our spiritual food. And having our spiritual food at the proper time can help us to deal with specific problems and encourage us to keep fighting Satan the devil. And fifth, take in instruction at congregation meetings. And to do that, we have to be at meetings like this one. And here we listen to the Bible explained, but we also participate in sharing our faith. And when we do that, we retain what we are taught. Hebrews 10:24 and 25 tells us not to forsake the gathering of ourselves together, and especially now, because it's an opportunity for us to encourage one another to stand firm against the devil. And finally, we need to be an evangelizer. We need to have a meaningful share in the ministry. We're out there to teach people about God's kingdom. We're out there to teach people about the paradise where Satan will be no more. We also teach people about Satan's designs so that they can learn to protect themselves from him also. And each time we do that, we remind ourselves of who Satan is, and we keep him from occupying our time with some non-productive activity. So do you remember the 6 ways that we can resist Satan? Well, all you have to do is remember the word resist. Read the Bible every day. Evangelize. Be a preacher. Wear the suit of armor. Take in instruction at congregation meetings. Partake of spiritual food. And talk to Jehovah in prayer. By doing these 6 things, we can actively resist the attacks of the devil. You see, we should be like the rabbit in the story of the fox and the rabbit. The fox was chasing the rabbit, and so the rabbit ran faster, and the fox ran faster, and the rabbit ran faster, and finally the fox stopped running. Later, someone asked the fox and the rabbit, "Why did you run the way that you did?" And the rabbit said, "I was running for my life." And the fox said, "I was only running for a meal." Oppose Satan the devil, actively resist him, and run as fast as you can away from him, because it means our life. Now, if we do that, if we recognize how the devil will attack us and then prepare ourselves to resist those attacks, we will experience blessings as a result. What blessings can we look forward to? Well, first, our Christian brotherhood is strengthened. When our brothers and sisters are successful in their standing and resisting Satan, it serves as an encouragement for us. And when we are successful in resisting the devil, it serves as an encouragement to them. You see, Satan wants to destroy the unity and peace of God's people, and we do not want to allow him to succeed. We don't want to be the person who allows the devil into the Christian congregation. So we stay determined to be loyal to Jehovah and our Christian brotherhood. And as a result, that brotherhood is strengthened, and that is a blessing. Here's a second blessing. Let's read what it is in Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 11. Proverbs 27, verse 11. Jehovah says this, "Be wise, my son, and make my heart rejoice, so that I can make a reply to him who taunts me." So a second blessing is that we have peace of mind and happiness when we resist the devil. How is that? Because we know that this verse in Proverbs 27:11 is true. We've given Jehovah the ability to answer Satan. Jehovah can say, "Look, Satan, do you see my people there? Do you see them serving me? Do you see them resisting you? They are faithful to me despite what you do to them. You lose." We give Jehovah the ability to give that answer because we stand against the devil. And that brings us tremendous happiness. And that is a blessing. And the third blessing that we have to look forward to is very soon. We will be living in a paradise earth that will be free from the influence of Satan and his world, because both will be gone. In our discussion today, we've seen that the devil is a powerful spirit creature. He's real. The Bible paints a picture that shows that not only is he real, but he is a vile, debased, evil, disgusting, filthy, wicked beast. We can't say anything good about him. The devil wants people to worship him and seeks to destroy any that do not do so. So by all means, be determined not to let Satan blind you into believing that he is not real. Do not let him use his world to lure you into worshiping him or his ideas. Yes, without a doubt, there really is a devil. So by all means, oppose Satan and resist him with all your strength. Being firmly rooted in the faith, take your stand against the devil.